Hello, and thank you for joining us for this evening's Metabolic Code clinical case review using the Metabolic Code report. I know we are getting just a little bit of a late start this evening, so I will hand the screen over to Jim without further delay.
There it is. Hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and get going. This is a great example of a business executive, 62-year-old male, that basically thinks he's pretty healthy until we really do a deep dive with him on what's going on with his health. He's been on acid-blocking medications for about 9 years, Prevacid twice a day. Any type of spicy food really rips him up. He is a former professional athlete back in his 20s. He's now 62. And has been an athlete in the business world. So he is actually quite an accomplished guy, very interesting to speak with, and very motivated about his health. In fact, owns health clubs. Let's take a look at his questionnaire and see what it tells us. He thinks he has food allergies and intolerances. He's not sure. I'd say with being on Prevacid, we're pretty sure that he does. He craves foods often, meaning typically it's carbohydrates in the evening. And then he takes acetaminophen at least 1,000 milligrams a day. So right away we know he has a glutathione deficiency and most likely a vitamin C deficiency without a doubt. He is on a statin medication as well. And he is also on, takes a combination with ibuprofen and NSAIDs. So he's doing great for both his dementia risk and his heart disease risk, right, with his decisions he's making. Then in addition to that, he is on an acid blocking medication. So as I said, he's on Prevacid. And then does he get tired after eating a big meal? Absolutely. He gets energy crashes during the day between 2 and 4 p.m. He has big problems. Notices his concentration's a little bit off. In general, he just, he has GI problems. He knows he's constipated. He was told he has a lazy bowel, which I'm not sure what that means, but more than likely he's got some food intolerances that are leading to it. And let's keep going. His adrenals, right? He craves salt, looks for comfort foods in late afternoon and evening. He's pushing his adrenals hard, driving that serotonin, want to hug that bag of potato chips, maybe a tortilla chip bag, who knows. And then is he feeling overcommitted through the day? Does he eat about more than 50% of his foods at night? And then in addition to that, he gets upset easily and can become tired and exhausted. What he basically said is he's a real common sense guy, and that he gets very frustrated when he's trying to get common sense concepts across to his employees, and he's got a lot of employees, like a couple thousand, and they don't act on it and they don't follow through. It triggers an immense amount of frustration on his part. Now, I told him, well, wouldn't it be great if you wouldn't get frustrated, but then just try to work through the issues? And of course, he thought that'd be great. But right now, because the stress has been overwhelming, building a business over the last 30 years, he's never really done anything about it. He's starting to reap the benefits of excessive stress response, which is inclusive of, if you saw the Wall Street Journal, elevated lipids, right? You make a lot of LDLs, and they're small particle LDLs. And another example of that today with a business executive who's under a lot of stress, making really small LDL particles and having a lot of oxidative stress in their body. The gut, we kind of went through these already. Are you frequently constipated, have diarrhea, or go back and forth between the two? He says yes, so he has a bit of an irritable bowel. And he gets bloated and distended and uncomfortable with meals really easy unless he eats 5 small meals a day, and that's the only way that he controls it. He has poor digestive capacity, obviously, because he feels full for extended periods of time after he eats. He's been told he has GERD. He does have stomach pain with eating at times. And then when we go to his immunity, he's got a little bit of nasal congestion. He's got to clear his throat frequently. That could be the GERD, right? It could also be that he's making a lot of mucus. He, a little bit of a restless sleeper, although he reports that when he sleeps, he goes out. So I wasn't so sure about this on that. And then on his mood swings, it's simply the frustration. That was it. It wasn't that he gets depressed or, anything like that. And then he does exercise every day. He gets some ringing or buzzing in his ears. I'm not sure what we'll do about that, but we'll see. He coughs to clear his throat. Once again, that's either the GERD or food allergies, one or the other. I've seen it be either one. And then obvious things like he gets a sour taste in his mouth often. So the liver is a little bit congested, and he's got the discomfort under the right side under his rib cage. So that's, a little bit of liver distension, a little gallbladder action going on, right? And then as we continue on, let's look at his sex hormones. He has reduced urine flow. He has decreased sex drive. He has a loss of genital stamina, and he has trouble getting an erection and maintaining an erection. He is not currently on hormonal therapy. He had tried it once before but did not stay with it. So it's a big area of interest for him. So I think we got a pretty good picture from this guy that he's been under a lot of stress a long period of time. He's a former baseball player, so you know that he's more than likely been an alpha male, right? And so he's more prone to have low testosterone. He has a lot of digestive issues. Probably the biggest driving thing, he'd like to get his digestion under control. He'd like to get his sex drive back. Those were his two big drivers when we talked and went through his case. Well, let's see what the metabolic code summary came up on him. It's still pulling up. Come on. Airwaves are slow tonight. Must be all the storms. Nudge it in a new way if it goes a little quicker.
Jim, we can switch over to my screen. Are you still there?
Yeah. I'm here.
Oh, okay. I just mentioned we could switch over to my screen.
I think it's coming through now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming through. I had to switch over to my extended range Wi-Fi to get through. There we go. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's see what we got. First step. Where is his problems at? Well, not horrible shape, right? But his problems are brewing. So if you look, gut immune brain, thyroid adrenal pancreas come out equally. A lot of stress. Certainly 2 yellows on adrenal and pancreas, so blood sugars are off. And the gut immune brain, certainly scoring strongly on gut because of all his symptoms, and basically he's got IBS, right? I mean, more or less is what he's got going on. Chronically constipated, gassy, distended, bloated. And then he's got some in cardiopulmonary, so he's kind of a mixed bag. He's got points. How often do you see somebody like this that they've kind of got decent points through all 5 triads, but none of them are really bad? But he's very functional, but he's got problems that are bothering him every day. He probably needs sex hormone replacement, at his age. He needs to get his gut worked on. He needs to do diet therapy, right? All these things are things that need to come together. So let's see what else we've got. If you look here, because he didn't have any super high scores, this is somebody that had more moderate risk, not a bunch of deep red risk. The 2 people I'm going to show you next week good examples of, basically early 40-year-olds with some real, one with some real significant issues. The other one, another interesting case. We're going to do them next week. They had a lot more red. So he's doing pretty good taking care of himself, considering he's never really done anything where it's been targeted to correct issues in his body. He's just kind of done it on his own. So this is one of the better vitality risks that we've seen on an initial reading. Let's take a look at where he's at, though. See, look at his cortisol. His cortisol's dipping. So his cortisol's down at 10. So it's still optimum, but it is at the bare minimum of optimum. Once that hits 10, he's now trending low. He has no DHEA, right? So he's just tuckered out his production. Now, his hormones could be going down because of his statin that he's on, right? So that could be causing problems. If we look at his thyroid, not really a lot of problem here. I mean, this is kind of getting pretty picky. But look at his fasting glucose. He's at a 98 fasting glucose. His insulin was 7.1. So the stress is starting to eat away at him a little bit. Not overweight. This guy's at an ideal body weight, looked fit. Look at his triglycerides. Triglycerides are kind of getting up there a little bit too, right? He does enjoy having a few drinks every night, and that blood sugar's coming up a little bit. So these are some interesting things that are populating on him. Now let's look here. His vitamin D is low. His monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils are over 10. So he's at 10.2, 10.6, or no, 10.2 and 10.8. So, there's some low-grade inflammation going on in the gut, but more than likely, if we clean up his diet, get him on some enzymes, get him off of the Prevacid, have to wean him down over time, maybe use a titrated dose of Prevacid downward, maybe use some hydroxide mineral salts to get the pH right in his gut, along with some zinc carnosine. That may be the way we have to go. So let's see what else we can find out on him here. His homocysteine just slightly elevated. Not going to worry much about that. But let's look at this. Serum calcium high, and his LDL particle number is high. What's that mean? Well, more than likely he's going to plaque, right? Because his LDL-P is high and his serum calcium is high. He's melting down bone due to his chronic long-standing cortisol issues. He's under a lot of stress. You melt down your bone, you release that calcium, you're going to create more plaque. And we actually made a suggestion for him that he go get a scan just because he hadn't had one in 15 years. And, just set up like, it might not be a bad idea with all the stress he's been under. Heart rate's at 74, so it's not exactly a excellent heart rate for somebody who's, training 6 days a week for an hour a day. And then let's look at his liver. And we see his hemoglobin's up around 16.1. He's not living at high altitude, nothing going on there. And he doesn't do extreme endurance sports, so that's not it either. We told him maybe consider donating a little bit of blood. Liver enzymes look good, so he's not drinking too much. And his red cell width is, it's pretty decent. So, not a lot going on there. Let's take a look here at the kidneys. His uric acid at 5.9 is okay, just starting to trend. His kidneys are good. His protein is good. Everything here is uneventful. Now let's look at his hormones. Well, look at his total testosterone. He's at 274. His testosterone is totally too low. Now, in his case, because his DHEA is low and the cortisol has had a lasting effect on him, there's no doubt about it. He reports that the stress has gotten to him. We'll try using Uricoma on him. So we'll try using a product like Restore T on him. I've had men in their 60s get their testosterone up into the 470s, 480s using Uricoma. That might be enough. That, and if you want to use Tribulus or you want to use, make sure he's getting zinc because he's probably depleted from zinc because of his PPI that he's on. And, his estrogens are fine. I mean, no problems there. I mean, his LH isn't terribly horrible. Maybe think about bringing that up a little bit more to see if you can get some tests out of him. But I think really we're going to just try to remodel his stress axis, get his gut to calm down, and we're going to find out if that testosterone pops back up by using Uricoma. coma. So where did his symptoms rank? Well, overwhelmingly his symptoms ranked in the gut, in the immune and brain. Makes sense. We're going to really work on a food elimination trial, probiotics, zinc carnosine, clean up any unfriendly flora, maybe with some berberine and cat's claw. Maybe use, probably do a titration dose, like a 15 or 20% reduced dose of Prevacid weekly. Probably compound his Prevacid in order to do that. And then over a period of 8 weeks, we'll walk him off of it while we're repairing his gut. And obviously, there's enzymes and glutamine, and if you want to use a rabinogalactin or DGL licorice, there's a lot of powders on the market that kind of combine all those things. Not having a lot of symptoms on adrenal thyroid pancreas. Probably his biggest symptoms are down here with testosterone. 110 points on testosterone, that ranked him pretty strongly there. So that was significant. So let's take a look here. Once again, triad 1, his DHEA's off, his LDL particles are high. That's because of his stress. Homocysteine, insulin, you could read all these and see. All these labs are telling us that there's way too much going wrong in triad 1. And then, of course, the labs for triad 3 are dominated by LDLP because that was a big number. And it's going to add a lot of points to this score when you have an LDLP of, close to 2,000. Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, obviously all scoring fairly well. And that's pretty much it. So let's take a look here and go get through these. These are just all of his labs. Let's see what the program brought up. Oh, I went too far. My bad, guys. Let me get back this way. All right, so what will we do? Would you give him DHEA? He's right at the borderline because you know what? His cortisol's kind of borderline low. I would give him DHEA, and I would give him Restore T, because the reason I give him Restore T, even though it's purple, Triad 5, it has uricoma in it, which acts to correct the hypothalamus cortisol testosterone derangement. So it'll work as an adaptogen, which will be Triad 1, and it'll work on his hormones. So DHEA plus Restore T makes a lot of sense. You got to give him vitamin D because he's low in D, and that breaks your gut down, just that. And then you got to think about, well, because his blood sugar was high, chromium, because he's on a statin, CoQ10, and the vitamin D goes low because of the Prevacid he's on. And he really needs minerals. So at this point, magglycinate probably is an important one, and we put that under Triad 1 and 2, right, for the brain, as well as for blood sugar, as well as energy production. And then you think about, well, we're going to have to work on his gut. So candibactin, which is, knockout candida. He doesn't quite get enough sleep. He actually reported it in general, even though it was weird, because when he did his questionnaire, it was a little bit off. I would not give him melatonin based on my interview with him because he seemed like he was pretty good. I would make sure I'm giving him something like Still Point to help calm his stress response. And then I think of the making sure he's doing Spectrazyme. I wouldn't give him hydrochloric acid while he's on Prevacid since he has GERD. I'd work on getting his digestion right, and then if he needs HCl, we'd get to it. And then just give him probiotics. These other things, the powdered meal support, if you want to kind of have him use a powdered meal replacement that takes some digestive stress off of him, I think it's a good idea if he's willing to do it. Even the omega fish oils, I would say, you know what, let's do that after we clean up blood sugar, with the chromium and the magnesium, clean up the stress response, clean up the gut, and then let's see what's going on. There's plenty to work on. He's going to be on about 6 things, but he needs it. I mean, he clearly needs his gut worked on, and he clearly is in too much stress. And that's it. That is our case for tonight. He's a perfect example of this is the kind of guy, when I did this, he booked 5 of his executives just because of the report. So pretty interesting. So if we get any questions, I will gladly take questions.
Thanks, Jim. I'll give just a little bit of time for any questions to come through. It looks like we do.
Yeah, the one thing I forgot, I should have mentioned, is that you could argue giving this guy some NAC just because he's taken so much Tylenol just to protect him from glutathione depletion. So he probably should be on 500 milligrams or 600 milligrams of NAC a day just from the depletion caused by the chronic acetaminophen use.
Okay, it looks like John has a question. I'm going to unmute John. He has his hand up. And
okay.
It looks like he's self-muted, so as soon as he unmutes his microphone, his question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Hey, John.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Question about, you mentioned that he was on NSAIDs. What was he taking for pain, or why was he taking so many?
Yeah, well, he had a right shoulder. He was a former major league pitcher, and so he has chronic shoulder problems. And on his knee that he landed on when he pitches, chronic knee. And so, so for us, what we usually do on pains, I had a case like this today. I'll clean, because he's got such a gut history, I want to clean up all that inflammation out of his gut and see what's left on his shoulder. Because he did allude to the fact that when he did an elimination diet several years ago, all his shoulder pain went away. But then he didn't stick with it. So what I'm going to do is try to wean him off and then get him going. And then obviously, we may suggest to him he does some, prolozone therapies and maybe some other pain management stuff for that shoulder. But I'm suspicious that when we clean his gut up, most of his pain's going to go away.
Yeah, it should work on the inflammation. Would you give him some topical, like camphor and menthol too, just to rub on?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely, good strategy. Yeah, you could do some topical strategies with him for sure. That would be smart.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right.
Thank you. Thanks, John. It looks like that wraps it up for questions tonight. I've recorded tonight's session. I'll post the archive on the blog. And thanks, Jim, and thanks everyone for being here.
Great. Okay, Libby.
Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.